This is the second to last talk that I'm doing on our journey through the gifts of winter, a spiritual retreat. And my intention for this talk and for this series is for us to take this month that we're in to kind of experience a retreat-like sense of what we're doing. So today, this service is probably more like a retreat. Well, it combines a retreat and what you might normally see on a Sunday morning. So, so hang in there with us. I know we're gonna have a good time. And if we don't, it's not my fault. It's the Shadow's fault. So the purpose of this retreat is to help us investigate our souls, to get clarity. Are really listening to the essence and the truth of who we are? Or what is it that wants to come up in you in this time of winter? You know, winter on Maui is a bit different than winter is anywhere else, but still, it's a time historically when people spent more time in the silence, in the dark, and so we're taking this time to really look within and to see what is it that is yet to be discovered within ourselves that we can bring forward to be the healthiest, happiest, most evolved expressions of spirit that we can possibly be. So I've got a little bit of an agenda for today. I've been accused of having an agenda many times, but I literally have an agenda this morning. And so today our agenda includes a releasing exercise that we'll do in just a moment, some chair yoga. We will have my talk, which is titled Embracing the Shadow, which is our teaching and ideas and suggestions for you to experience in your life. And we'll have a meditation. We'll have some really special music coming up in a moment or two, and announcements and the prayer for protection. And you're on your own after that to your own devices. I said with a sense of humor. Okay, so I'm going to get myself a chair here. And I invite you all just to kind of bring your attention to your breath. You know, yoga, I think, is a great way to get in touch with our bodies, to really, you know, a lot of being present is about letting our bodies be present and fully experiencing the moment and being here now, as Ram Dass would say. And so I invite you just to be comfortable in your seat. Oh, I think I did this last time too. I skipped ahead of myself. Well, let's do the yoga first and we'll come back to this. It's all good. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do overhead stretch, and it's quite simple. As we breathe in, we're going to bring the arms from the sides up and over our heads, breathing in, holding it for a moment, and letting go and releasing down. Let's do it 3 more times. Resting for a moment, breathing in, holding the breath, stretching the arms, and then exhaling and letting go. So 1. And breathing in, holding it, and letting go. 2. And 1 more time. Breathing in and stretching up, and exhaling. So that's overhead stretch. Now we'll do a seated cat and cow. And it actually starts with the cow and goes to the cat. So we're going to keep our head looking straight ahead and open our spine in. So it's very familiar, those of you who do yoga, to what cat is like, right? And so back to just seated again. And I would make sure that you're seated in the middle of your seat so you're not against the back of your chair, and your legs are at a 90-degree angle, right? And your trunk is strong. So In a moment, we'll breathe in and then breathe out. So that's all it is. So let's breathe in with cat, breathing in and breathing out. And we'll do it 3 times. Breathing in and breathing out. And that's 2. One more time, breathing in and breathing out. And then I invite you just to kind of relax and shake your body and just kind of stir it up a little bit and let yourself be relaxed and present in the moment. So we'll do a 5-minute releasing exercise. And I invite you to think of something that perhaps happened to you in the last week, if possible, or if not in the last week, then sometime that you remember, where somebody said something to you that struck a chord. And, right? And we'll say just a flat chord. Right? So it wasn't like, oh yeah. It was like, oh no. You know, that's something that you could take offense to, you know, or a rail or no, don't go into that. I know. I know. It's a Marx Brothers joke. You have to be familiar with them to understand that. Something that Grudge said, I think. Anyway, so think about something that somebody said, or even, you know, I know for me, an issue that I've had a lot of my life is about not being smart enough. So if somebody says, oh, you know, somebody who is smart would have done such and such, right? And that chord gets hit in me of, oh, I'm not smart enough. So think of something that somebody might have said, or you could have even thought it that struck a chord in you in the last week. And how did you react? Did you get this surge of, woo? Sort of the head becomes big and all the blood flows to it, right? And woo! What feelings did you have? And can you forgive that person for whatever that was? So many times we take things personally that are said by others that are unconscious and have no reference to us. But there are good opportunities for learning. And this is kind of a nice opening way to start to begin to look at the shadow today. Because often the shadow gets triggered by things that happen around us. So we talked the last couple of weeks about creating a denial and an affirmation. So in creating a denial, we're not going to deny that we didn't have the feeling or the thought or the emotion. What we are denying is that feeling, thought, or emotion has any power over us, right? Because we are powerful spiritual beings, and we have the ability to determine what is powerful for us or not. So, and certainly we have control over what we choose to do with that feeling, that thought. So a denial would be something like, you know, this frustration I feel has no power over me. You know, even though I feel that sting of, oh, I'm not smart enough, the truth is I don't have to let that have any power over me. I can feel it, and I can just go, wow, that sting has no power over me. Right? Because we never want to deny our feelings, but what we can deny is the power that we have to choose what we do with them. Or the anger that I feel has no power over me. Okay, everybody kind of got something? So then, what would a denial be for you? Just think of it yourself. I won't ask you to say it out loud, but just have one. This, whatever it is, has no power over me. And then the second part of that process is then to turn it around and fill that void that we just created with a true statement or an affirmation. So we are really retraining ourselves to have more productive thought patterns, to essentially rewire our brains. So an affirmation is usually a statement that says, I am the condition that we want to feel, I am happy, and I am calm. And when am I all these things? Right now. I don't want to do it for tomorrow or next week. I want to experience that right now. So now kind of turn around. Whatever that denial whatever you're releasing, now turn that around to what you want to express, what the truth is for you right now. I am, da-da-da, and I feel great. I feel powerful. I feel present. I feel alive. I feel beautiful. Okay, now I invite you to take out your journal or your, a lot of us have books with passport books, and anyone who doesn't have a passport book with them, even if you're here for the first time, you're welcome to have one. It's just a place to take notes, and Kailani's coming around, and raise your hand if you don't have one. And then just take a moment and write down the affirmation, or something, write down the denial. There's a couple examples up here. You know, one thing I like about Unity is we are practical spirituality, and that to me means that we don't just talk about the truth, we practice it, and that's one of the, that's why we're doing this, is to give us the opportunity not just to learn these truth principles, but to apply them in our lives. And just write whatever comes to you. So we've written a denial, and then here's an example of some affirmations to really build into our consciousness, build into your consciousness that which you desire to feel, that which the presence of God within you wants to be as you, to be happy, to be calm, and to do it when? Right now. And of course, the whole point of saying I am is to impress our subconscious that this isn't just something that we want, something that is right now. I'll give you just another 30 seconds or something. And if you leave your passport behind, I'll put all the information up on Facebook this week. Just kidding. So, if you're here for the first time, you're going, oh my, I don't know if I want to come back to this place again. No, the books are for you to keep too, by the way. All right, so let's begin. So today we're talking about embracing our shadow. And, well, I'll just start off with this fun little joke here. The elephant says, sometimes even if I stand in the middle of the room, no one acknowledges me. I think that the elephant has a shadow side, right? Part of that elephant that is saying that it doesn't feel like it's important or doesn't feel acknowledged. And I hope that this therapist can help the elephant deal with his issue. So imagine that. that you are so powerful, that you have the capacity to, in any life situation, any circumstance, to be in it and not feel diminished by it. Regardless of how the situation looks or how it feels, imagine that you intuitively know that every experience that you have is for you. Every situation is for you. Everything happens so that you can embrace your power. Imagine not ever having to defend yourself when someone judges you. Imagine never feeling like a victim again. Think about how your life would be different. This is possible as we learn to embrace our shadow. The pathway to experiencing our fullness as a spiritual being is by embracing the things that don't always feel so good instead of pushing them away under the rug. We're learning to face our dark side and bring it into the light because our shadows keep us stuck. So what are the benefits of embracing our shadow? A lot of things. We can be whole and complete and embracing our shadow, or we can be integrated as a person. We have an expanded capacity for kindness and compassion. We have improved relationships. We have increased happiness. We have improved health and energy because we're letting all that stuff go. We have more creativity because we're not repressing the desires that are within us. We become more self-aware, and we become in touch with the truth of who we are, rather than staying stuck. Yes? Or you want some of that? I do, right? It's like, it's time to move out of that stuff. It's time to be who we are. It's time to let go of the stuff that's holding on to us and keeping us back. And a lot of that stuff is unconscious. And that's what we're going to begin to look at today, is what is it that I'm not even aware of that I'm holding on to that's keeping me from being the fullest that I can be. Woo! Let's begin by saying the affirmation together again. Let's say it with power and truth and opening our heart, our mind, our spirit to this process. Let's say it together. Spirit guides me towards what I must know and do to be free, passionate, and healthy and whole. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. Carl Jung says, everyone carries a shadow. And the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. At all counts, it forms an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Wow, I love that. The purpose of the shadow is to keep us safe through the repression of the pushing down of the characteristics and desires that are unacceptable or inconceivable to our ego. Our ego's job is to keep us safe. You ever get that little voice that says, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you're liable to get hurt? Right? Sometimes it's true. The ego's job is really to give us warning signs and say what we could do could be dangerous. But what it does is it overemphasizes it and keeps us contained. Because the ego's like, I'm going to keep you contained. I'm going to make life be easy for you. You're not going to have to stretch. You're not going to have to be out of your comfort zone. You're just going to be this closed down, safe being. And ego's intentions are good. It really wants to help us, but unfortunately, it's overtrained. So we are about untraining the ego to be in control of us and for us to be able to make wise decisions consciously. Debbie Ford, in her book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, says our shadows exist to teach us, to guide us, and give us blessings of our entire selves. Wow. Bill Plotkin, he's written 2 books, Wild Mind and the Journey of Soul Initiation, wrote, the shadow is not what we know about ourselves, don't like, and keep hidden. Rather, the shadow is what is true about ourselves that we don't know at all, and if accused of it, would adamantly and sincerely deny and say, oh no, that's not me, right, to ourselves and to other people if it ever came about. I like to kind of summarize that, and I see the shadow as a psychological term for everything we can't see in ourselves. So that's why it's our shadow. So if we can't see it, we can't work on it, right? And unless we know the issues that we have and the challenges that we have and the barriers that we have, we can't work on them. We can't stretch. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's pretty deep, huh? Fate. Fate did this to me. Before we kind of embark on this talk about the shadow, and I think it's important for us to talk about the definitions of ego, because we use one definition in New Thought as ego, and in psychology they use a different definition, and it's important for us to differentiate between the two of them. So the spiritual definition of ego is the craving, driving force that is not the truth of who we are. It is our unenlightened self. So that's what when we're on the spiritual path, we're trying to bring enlightenment to that unenlightened self. And that's what we call the ego when we're talking, spiritual processes. Now, psychological is a bit different than that. The psychological definition of ego is defined as the view that a person has of themselves, or their self-worth, or their self-esteem, and how much they value themselves. So this is the conversation, this is the definition that we're looking at today when we talk about the ego today. It's kind of that how we see ourselves. So our individual shadow is a part of us that tries to keep us safe through the repression, making it unconscious of the characteristics that are unacceptable, inconceivable, or risky to our ego. So how can we retrieve the characteristics that our shadow has hidden from us? How can we make the unconscious conscious? So I put together, I think, a fun metaphor to do this. So visualize a restaurant, and your consciousness is the restaurant. This is the place that you exist. And the security guard gets instructions from the ego to throw out of consciousness, to throw out of the restaurant any characteristics of our psyche not deemed respectable to the management or to the ego, right? And this can include things like rage, greed, envy, selfishness, and there's others. So these undesirable characteristics are thrown out into the street and picked up by the shadow police, and then taken to jail. And the key is thrown away. So these are the characteristics that have become the shadow or have become hidden from us. So later in life, we think about it and we think, I'm on this spiritual journey. It's time for me to let this stuff out of the jail and to become aware of what it is. Because I want to experience the fullness of who I am, right? Don't you? Yes. Two of you. All right, well, if you're watching on Facebook, pray for the other ones, will you? So we can discover these imprisoned characteristics who have been hidden by interviewing two accessories to the crime. So, and here they are. These accessories to the crime are our sinister shadow and our golden shadow. Both have the keys to the jail to open up and let out the characteristics that have been hidden. So the accessories to the crime are the sinister shadow. Our sinister shadow projects onto others unconscious thoughts, beliefs that we hold. Qualities like greed, cowardice, rage, weakness, arrogance, or cruelty. So when we see these characteristics in someone else, guess what? The old saying is, you spot it, you got it. Right? You get one finger, as Kealoha says, you got one finger pointing this way and three pointing this way. If you spot it, you got it. It's not a bad thing. It's just all about awakening. It's just all about becoming aware of this truth. Our sinister shadows, characteristics, are qualities that our ego identifies as negative and morally beneath it, so it sees them in other people as a kind of way of not admitting the fact that they're there in ourselves. So the initial goals of working with our sinister shadow are to uncover the negative traits, take responsibility for them, and then soften them, eliminate them, forgive them, and let them go. And once we have let them go, it's going to be really unlikely because we're not going to see them in other people. It's like that's a clue. That's an accessory for us to realize we have work to do when we spot them in somebody else. Isn't that fun? Don't you just love that? And you thought you had all your work done, right? No, I think this is great stuff. Okay, so then our golden shadow, as Jung would say, is our submerged greatness. The golden shadow symbolizes withheld courage, hidden talents, repressed passion, and stifled creativity. Wow. It's the unfulfilled potential that we face, that we're afraid to face because we're afraid of taking risks, we're afraid of jealousy, we're afraid of what we might have to do if we open to that possibility. We're afraid of rejection. What are my friends going to say if all of a sudden I've got this success? It's the glowing qualities that we're drawn to in others. This is where we discover our golden shadow, is the things that we're drawn to in others. You ever go, wow, I wish I had that kind of talent. I wish I could sing like that. I wish I could speak like that. I wish I could write poetry like that. I wish I could be so present in the moment as that person is. The reason you recognize those golden qualities, and they have an intense, you'll really know it's yours because it's going to be intense. It's going to be like, wow, yeah, I want that. It's because you already have it. It's a message from your golden shadow to say, wake up. You got this. Our golden shadow's characteristics are the positive qualities that our ego identifies as above who we are. When in fact, we have that. You have that. It's through doing our shadow work that we reclaim the parts of ourselves that have been repressed. Wow, I love that. We often discover that our shadow holds something sacred of ours, our deepest passion, our hidden talents, our dazzling beauty. And we've repressed these things because we're too shy to show them, or we're too afraid, or it seems like it might be too much work. But how can we do anything else? You know, when we connect with these golden shadow parts, it's going to energize us. It's going to make us healthy. It's going to make us feel powerful, because this is the desire of our soul. This is the essence of spirit that is in each one of us that wants to express itself as us. Don't you want that? Yeah. Wow, that's what you are. Marianne Williamson said, you probably heard this, she wrote this in her book, Return to Love, many years ago. She said, our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that's within us. It's not just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same thing. Yeah. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Wow. So what are you noticing here? You know, the logical extension of this line of thought is that when we deny our shadow, we're denying our passion. We're denying our health. We're denying our capacity to love, our potential to be happy, to be creative, to be self-aware, and to be fully whole and an integrated spiritual person that we are. So how do we discover the secrets that the accessories to the crime are holding for us? We ask some questions because they are witnesses to it, and they will offer answers if we ask. And by the way, all this is in the Walk Your Talk, a summarized version of that, and as well as these questions. So let's go to our sinister shadow and ask our sinister shadow a question. So what unconscious thoughts or beliefs do I project onto others? Do I see others as greedy, cowardly, angry, weak, arrogant, or cruel? You might want to take a breath after that. I'm sure that none of you have ever experienced any of that. Okay, and then, do I have these traits within myself? And then I invite you, as part of the healing process of this, to write a letter to yourself and to say, it's okay that I have these feelings. Okay that I have these thoughts. And to say, you know what, higher self, this is great. Let me know what I can know about these things. And I can love myself despite the fact that I've had these kinds of thoughts. Because this is really about awakening to the truth that I am. And you might then write an affirmation to yourself to say something like, I accept myself as I am whole and complete and powerful right now. Right now. Can you feel the power in that? And if you feel some resistance, sometimes our ego says, don't listen. Don't listen to that, because it's afraid, right? That's a bunch of BS. And I've discovered that the spiritual path is kind of uncomfortable sometimes, right? Because it's not just about, everything is love and joy and roses. Sometimes we have to face the challenges, the thoughts, and come to terms with them and love them. So the second, you ready for another question, or is that enough for today? You want another one? All right, let's go with another one. Okay, the second question is there anyone I hold a grudge against? For whatever reason, is there anybody that you're holding a grudge against? Anybody want to admit one? A friend. A friend?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I won't ask you what it is, but... Okay, what is the grudge you hold?
Oh, it's just feeling judged and monitored, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you're feeling like the friend monitors you or judges you,
yeah.
Right? And so you have kind of a grudge against that person for that. So then what you might work on is you might write a letter to yourself saying, I'm forgiving this person, I'm forgiving myself for having a grudge, and then maybe to use an affirmation and say, I see the light and love in others, and I am powerful and happy right now. Just let that go, because holding that grudge not only affects your ability to deal with that person, but it also keeps you from loving yourself. And so when we stop holding stuff against other people, it allows us to be the free expressions that we are. Can you see how that works? It's the law of the universe. What we put out, we get back. If we're not putting out love, we don't get love back. If we're putting out a grudge, then we're grudging ourselves and stopping the flow of good that's possible for us. Okay, so that's the second question. You ready for another one? Yeah. All right, well, we're going for it today. This is the third one. And do I hold a grudge against myself? Is there something that you are angry, hold a grudge against yourself for something that you might have done in the past? And so it's the same thing. If we're holding that grudge against ourselves, in a sense, we're containing ourselves, we're shutting ourselves off and disliking ourselves on some level. And in that, we're not allowing ourselves to experience the fullness of who we are. And we're not sharing that with the world. So if there's a place where you're holding a grudge against yourself, identify what it is. Don't judge yourself for it. It's all good. And to love yourself, even to love the grudge, to let it go, to see it as being it's an accessory to the crime in a sense, yeah? Because it's going to open to understanding. And then to write a positive affirmation of acceptance. I love myself. I am a loving being. I love myself right now. Okay, that's probably enough of that. The sinister shadow. Let's work on the golden shadow a little bit. Okay, ready? All right, here we go. So, questions for the golden shadow. What qualities do I see in others that I wish I had? What qualities do you see in others that you wish you had? Anybody want to admit one? Oh, being easy to talk to strangers. Wow, that is a quality that you have. Do you have a lot of energy about that? Yeah. Wow. So having feeling like you see in somebody else a quality that they have, that you want to be able to talk to strangers. You want to be able to be truthful, enlightened, powerful, amazing, creative. If you see it in somebody else, the good news is you got it too. And so, what can you do to identify that? What can you do to move that forward? If there's somebody, like if you want to write poetry, so what poems do you like? And really embrace that poetry and love that poetry. And then to write an affirmation to yourself that I am creative. I am writing powerful poetry right now. I am able to talk to strangers and feel great about it right now. And replacing all those error images that we sometimes hold on to. Okay, the second question for the golden shadow is, what's my biggest regret? What is the biggest regret that you have? Something you didn't do, something you didn't say, something that you weren't able to be present for at the time. And then write a letter to yourself, forgiving yourself for the fact that you didn't do that. And creating an affirmation to say, I am responding with love to powerful ideas that I have right now. And the third question for the golden shadow is, what is something I can begin doing right now so I don't regret it in the future? What is something you can do? Maybe practice speaking to a stranger, in the grocery store or whatever, just to say hi. Everything begins with hi, or how are you, or doing something creative. What can you do creatively that you've been wanting to do for a long time, that you have passion about? Don't put it off. Do something. Do something today. Paint something today. Pick up an instrument today. Go to Bounty Music on the way home. Do something that adds to that which you desire to have, so that you don't regret it tomorrow or next week or next year. Tell somebody you love them. Wow. So the benefits of embracing our shadow include feeling whole, feeling integrated as a person, because we're working on our entire self, our being, our psychic, our spirit, our soul, our heart. We're working on all of that so we can be fully expressed. And all of this expands our potential for, capacity for kindness and compassion. And all this improves our relationships. The more we work on ourselves, the better our relationships are going to be. Why? Because we're not holding anything back. There's nothing hidden in there that's keeping us from being all we are. And we'll have increased happiness, and we'll have increased energy and greater creativity. We become more self-aware and more of the fullness of who we are. When we stop hiding from ourselves, when you stop hiding from yourself, you can stop hiding from the world. And isn't that what your soul wants? Because when you stop hiding from the world, it encourages all of us to do the same thing, to experience, to express the fullness of who we are. Carl Jung wrote, "How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also if I am to be whole." Spirit guides me towards what I must know and do to be free, passionate, and whole. Let's say this together. Spirit guides me towards what I must know and do to be free, passionate, and whole. I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And let's just sit in the silence for a moment or two and integrate all of this into the allness that you are, we are. Breathing in and breathing out. Let's bring our awareness back to this moment. And I invite you now to prepare your love offerings this morning. And I invite you to give to Unity on Maui. Out of your heart and out of your soul, and I know there's a bunch of envelopes around, and you don't. If you're writing a check, you don't have to put your envelope in that. Right? Your check in the envelope, but just as a good way, lots of people like to identify that they've given cash, and it's one way to help us keep our records straight. So as you give today, think about what you're going to take from today. I invite you to relate to the feeling that you get being here and the feeling that you get by connecting with your spiritual self. And I invite you to give to us as a way of appreciating the truth of who you are and the truth of what we help you to be at Unity on Maui. And your gifts help us to gift our staff and all the people who keep this property being so beautiful. And I'm so grateful also for all the volunteers that help us to keep our sanctuary and our church so beautiful. So as you hold your gifts, let's affirm and pray together our affirmation of prosperity, which begins: through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. Thank you. Loving Spirit, thank you for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them, we give thanks for them. And know that they move through this ministry and out into the world. And we behold a world filled with love, with light, and with peace. And so it is. Thank you. Well, these beautiful flowers behind me were arranged by Kealoha and grown right here on our Unity property. So thank you, Kayla, for your amazing arrangement. And if you'd like to donate flowers on Sunday morning, actually you don't really donate them, you get to bring them, and we enjoy them for an hour or so, and then you get to take them home with you. And I would be happy to announce whatever it is that you would like us to celebrate with you with these flowers. And there's a sign-up sheet on the table in the back, and thank you for doing that. It's fun to have something live up on the platform here, besides me and Kurt. I think we're live, aren't we? Yeah. Finally, we're alive, yes! So, next week my talk is titled The Sound of Silence. And maybe I'll just do it all in the silence. What do you think? When I was worked at Silent Unity, we had the Silent Unity choir. Right? And of course the joke was that we did indeed sing, and we did indeed hold songbooks, but we didn't say a word. It was definitely the Silent Unity choir. So no, anyway, I will talk next week now that I think about it. And so why don't we experience more time in the silence? Is it a struggle for anybody else but me? You know, it's a well-known fact that silence reduces stress. Silence helps us build new neural pathways. Silence helps us to replenish our mental and physical resources. Neuroscience is finding that silence actually builds new cells. So why don't we spend more time in the silence? Well, I think the simple answer is we're accustomed to noise, right? We're addicted to novelty, to sensation, to fuss, and to commotion, and outer stimulation occupies our beingness for many of us, I would imagine, from morning till night, right? It's just a part of who we are. So next week, we're going to look at some ways that we can embrace more of the silence, to be able to spend time reflecting and discerning how can we express our fullness and how can we access that in the silence. So join us next Sunday right here at 10 o'clock, just like today, and we will spend some time in the silence and have some fun with that as well. So, this is a picture of my Walk Your Talk that's available today. It's kind of a summary of my lesson. It's available at the back as you go out. I think we're going to actually be handing them out to you if you want one. Okay, you'll be handing them out. Kathleen will be handing them out. Please take one with you. I know I covered a lot today, but I do think it's valuable for us to do this work and to experience our fullness. So, beyond that, I think that about wraps it up for today. Why don't we stand and let's pray and affirm the prayer for protection together. Let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, friends. Thank you for being here today. And mahalo and aloha.
Where I live, there are